Not minding that those guys were already old, like they were already in their maybe around 30 or in their late 20s around that particular time. So they were no longer children. But that their height get people captivated, and that one got them the whole things. That is the same way our mind plays around those things that seem to be abnormal. When we capture our attention in that population, is going to be that person that is too tall and that person that is too short. So as a person, I may now form my own I may now form my overview around. So as a person that is visiting that market for the first time, that is what is going to capture your attention. So if we are to write our overview around that, I can write my overview around the outlier. Let me say this: nobody has the best way of writing overview. And let me say this again: when you don't write a good overview, it may be difficult for you to even have 6.5. So it's not something that you should joke with. Your overview is, you can get your examiner, you can get the attention, or you can get your examiner captivated with your work right from your overview. Your overview is just the gateway to the body. Then when you piece off your examiner right from the overview, then it's almost like a sorry case. And we don't want to do that. So you want to write an overview that is, if it is not accurate, very close to being accurate. Let me say this: nobody has the best way of writing it, but strive to write something that is at least of good standard to a reasonable extent. Having said that, if we are to write overview around, regarding those people in the market, I can write it around what is most common. I can now say, okay, overall, it can be seen virtually everybody in Alaba International Market are of the same height. Don't forget that word I said, virtually, which does not mean in total, but close to be in totality. Do we understand? That is forming my overview around what is most common. I can as well form my overview around the outlier and say, okay, overall it can be seen. Overall, it can be seen that among the people in Alaba International Market, only one person is extremely tall and another one is extremely short. Then again, another person can now write his own overview along what is most common and the outlier and say, overall, it can be seen that almost everybody in Alaba International Market are of the same height, except one person that is extremely tall and the other one that is extremely short. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Brilliant. So that is how we can form our overview writing. There are things that you must not do while writing your overview. You know, when we're talking about paraphrasing, we talked about the 4 elements of paraphrasing. We said that there are 4 things that must reflect in our paraphrasing. There are things that must not reflect in our overview writing. Number 1 is that in overview writing, you must not tell us data. You must not start telling us. When you listen to the overview that I just gave now, I did say overall it can be said that seen that 48 of them are between 3 feet to 5 feet tall. By the time I start mentioning 3, 5 feet, 3 is the data, 5 is the data. Do you understand? In overview writing, you don't mention data. In overview writing, you don't mention unit of measurement. You don't start saying, okay, it is feet or it is kilogram. Then in overview writing, if you can do away with the year, excellent. But if you cannot do away, you can still include the year. It is pardoned, it is still allowed. But if you can do away with the year, fantastic. Fantastic. Are we communicating, please? Hello, any question? No question, I guess. Thank you. So having said that, the next one is that you must not write below 150 words. There is something that we call task achievement. Task achievement is answering all the question, covering all the question, the sub-question pertaining to the main question. What do I mean by that? If the question is saying you must not write below 150 words, especially task one essay, please don't write below 150 words. Then don't overwrite. Between 150 180, you can spill over to like 190 something, but don't start writing 200, 220, 250. In fact, you don't even have the time. And don't forget, the more you write, the more you are liable to committing errors. And again, you are not the only person that this examiner is going to be assessing on that day. So make sure you keep it between 150 words or to 180. You can still spill over to like 190 something, because there are times that some shots may appear to be kind of complex. And again, part of task achievement is that the question will tell you to compare where relevant. I've seen people, they will write their very nice task one essay write essay essay task one essay without answering all the question, without covering the aspect that we say make comparison where necessary. You must ensure that you compare it, maybe one or two comparison. You are good to go. That is why they will say make comparison where relevant. They are not expecting you to compare everything. So the next one is that you must use the appropriate language to present your information. Each of these task one essay has a language that is peculiar to it. There is a language that you must use in writing your line graph. There's a language for overtime bar chart and non-overtime non-overtime pie charts. So you must understand this language. The language you will use in writing map is different from the language you will be using in writing your process essay. Again, task achievement must be achieved. I've talked about that. Make sure you use appropriate tenses. Your tenses must be in tandem with the timing of the chart. I've seen a situation whereby somebody is writing about a chart that is talking regarding something in the future, and the person is using past tense. There should be an agreement between the timing of that chart and the tense of the tenses that you are using. If the chart is talking about something in the past, use past tense. If it's talking about something in the future, use future tense. The next one is that make sure you use, you must use linkers when necessary. Linkers are just like your common, your everyday conjunction, like your but and and. It is not until you use however that you use linkers, because I've seen people, when you start talking about linkers, start thinking it is a must for you to use however, nonetheless, nevertheless. Your but, your and, they are also linkers. But if you can use other ones like however, nonetheless, nevertheless, furthermore, more so. So all those ones are linkers. The reason why you should use linkers is that you don't want to be writing like a kindergarten kid. Say, for example, you don't want to be saying, "Oh, I went to Tunde's house yesterday. Tunde was eating pounded yam. Tunde did not come into it." All those three simple sentences can be married or can be joined together to make a compound sentence. Like, I went to Tunde's house yesterday and I met him eating pounded yam, but he did not call me. Or I went to Tunde's house yesterday and I met him eating pounded yam. Nevertheless, he did not call me. Do we understand? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, having said that, the next one is that plan your writing before you commence it. Planning is key to task one essay. Don't just jump. There are times that people will just jump into the question, they will start writing without having adequate planning. You must have this adequate planning for you to be able to write a very decent task one essay. What do I mean by this? Look at it. Are there information that can group together? Look at it. How do I approach it? You can take like between 2 to 3 minutes, or between 2 to 3 minutes, to look at it and think about how you want to write this task one essay. Don't just jump into it. There are times that people jump into it, they get stuck along the way. There are times they jump into it, they maybe along the way they discover that they would have written it in another format, in another better format. They may start canceling. Don't forget, you don't have that luxury of time to be canceling. Sorry, to be erasing. Then you must create that avenue for yourself that after you might have written it, you should be able to proofread whatever you've written. Proofreading is essential. It is not your language. Nobody is infallible. You are liable to committing errors. So make sure you create all those allowances for you to be able to go back and proofread whatever you've written to make sure that they are error-free to a reasonable extent. The next one is that don't write more than 2 body paragraphs after your introduction. You are not allowed to write more than 2 body paragraphs after your introduction. You get to understand better regarding that one. So, any questions so far, please?
So my question is,
all right.
You said while writing, paraphrasing our introduction,
all right,
we should make sure that there are these four major elements, which are type of chart, timing, unit of measurement, and the targeted information. I've seen a lot of people writing this unit of measurement under overview.
That is what I just said. All right, go ahead.
For example, there was a line graph given to someone, and the person wrote, overall, it can be seen that the number of students in this country were measured in millions and had their education in France, Russia, and America. So they were not like, even though there are fluctuations throughout the year, the number of participants who learned in America kept increasing throughout the study. So are you saying that the person should remove the unit of the unit of measurement out of it and leave the rest?
Exactly. That unit of measurement should go out of that information that you just presented now and leave the rest. The rest should be all right. The reason be that you've already spoken about the unit of measurement. Overview writing is not an in-depth. All those units of measurement, you still be talking about them in the main illustration. Do you understand?
Yes.
Are we together? You still be talking about them in the main illustration. You still be talking about those units of measurement. Unit of measurement should be taken out of your overview writing. Does that make sense, please?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Excellent. So, having said that, we'll be looking at line graph. Then other information we still talked about more things. Line graph is when information are presented in linear format, and such information are to be summarized in logical manners. How do we write introduction to line graph and other graph? How do we introduce? There are 2 ways of writing our introduction. Number 1 is that we can write our paraphrasing and overview together in the same paragraph. That is one way of writing introduction. Don't forget, our introduction comprises the paraphrasing and the overview. Does that make sense? Then, again, we can split those introduction into different paragraphs. That is the second method of writing it. Like you're paraphrasing in the first paragraph, your overview in the second paragraph. Then after that, we go to the first body paragraph, second body paragraph. In task 1 essay, we don't write conclusion. So if you are splitting your introduction into 2 paragraphs, meaning that your paraphrasing is occupying a paragraph, overview is occupying another paragraph, it means that you are going to be having maximum of 4 paragraphs altogether, out of which 2 are going to be body paragraphs. Then, if you are writing your overview and paraphrasing together, it means that you are going to be having 3 paragraphs in total, meaning 1 is going to stand for the introduction with 2 body paragraphs. Does that make sense, please? Note, use simple present tense to open your paraphrasing irrespective of the timing of the chart. I mean, yes, irrespective of the time, either is in the past, either is in 20 years ago or 100 years ago, your opening should be like the line graph given illustrates, not illustrated. The line graph given shows, not shown. The line graph given compares. The line graph given gives information, not gave information. Imagine it should be like the line graph given illustrates the percentage of people, the percentage of male and female that voted in Nigeria in the last general election. The line graph given illustrates the percentage of people, the percentage of male and female that traveled out of Cameroon in the last 50 years. Are we together? So make sure that that opening must be kept as simple present tense. Don't start writing the line graph given illustrated, please. Then you can choose any of these as your opening for the overview. Like overall, it can be seen. Just pick one and stick to it. There is no need for that dynamism. Just pick one, stick to it. Pick one, pick anyone that you think is simple and is okay by you and stick to it. And the reason why we don't write conclusion in task 1 essay is the fact that you did not generate the information, you did not generate the chart, you didn't conduct any research, you didn't distribute any questionnaire to gather data and analyze for you to come up with the chart. So it may be difficult for you to start concluding on the experiment that you didn't perform. Does that make sense? Please don't write conclusion in task 1 essay. I've seen people writing conclusion. It is not allowed. The only thing you can do in task 1 essay is when you are struggling to write up to 150 weight, you can rephrase your overview even after you've written everything in your second body paragraph. Does that make sense, please?
Yes, sir.
It does.
Thank you. So line graph continues. Note, when writing your line graph or any other task 1 writing, think about information that you can group together. The language that we use in line graph is known as language of change. Let me say this again. We use language of change. You know, I said each of these charts has a language that is peculiar to it. So the language that is peculiar to line graph is language of change. Let me emphasize so that nobody will say that I've never heard about that, and maybe by the time it starts. So the language that we use in writing line graph is language of change. As a matter of emphasis, we use language of change to write line graph. Examples of language of change include, but not limited to, the following: rose, increase, rise. Plunge to. When you are saying something plunge, it means that it experienced a great drop, a great dip, a great fall. That is when you start seeing something plunge. Something that reduced from 3 to 2, you can't start saying that it plunged. Something that reduced from 7 to 3, you can't start saying that it plunged. But when something falls from 20 to like 10, that is almost like a half. That's a plunge. Or something falling from 20 to 5. Do we understand? Appropriate usage of this language are essential to having a very nice or a decent band score. So, students, this must be used at the beginning of your description. You get to understand what I mean by this. Students should be confined to the beginning of a description, like the percentage of people that voted in Nigeria in 2010 stood at 2%. You know, the commencement of that description is where I used to. So I stood at 2% before increasing to maybe 3% in 2011. After that, it skyrocketed maybe to 15% in 2013 before nosediving to maybe to 4% in 2015. What am I saying in the sense is that students should be kept at the commencement of the description where you are starting your description. That is where you should use students, not in between. The wrong usage of students is going to be like me saying, oh, the percentage of people that voted in Nigeria started at 2% in 2011 and rose to 3% and stood at 3% in 2012 before skyrocketing to 15% in 2013. Do we understand? That stood that has come in between the description. That is a wrong usage. It is just like a car that is already in motion will not stop. until it gets to final destination, provided that there is no fault or there is no and the fuel has not been exhausted. Does that make sense? If it is already in motion, it will remain stationary along the line until it get to final destination. Do we understand what I'm trying to explain around to that, please? Any confusion? Is anybody confused?
No, sir, I'm not.
All right, thank you. So having said that, the next one is pick that. Pick that is the highest point at in. Like if you are describing a particular entity, the highest point attained by that entity is what we refer to as peak. It means that in that entity that you are describing, there is no any other point that is as high as that particular point. So make sure we use all these things appropriately. Then the next one is reach a trough. Reach a trough is just like the lowest point attained. It's just like our elementary physics, where we'll be saying the sand wave, where we're talking about crest and trough. We'll be saying, okay, the crest is the maximum displacement, then the minimum displacement is just like that. So trough is just the opposite of peak that. Fluctuated. When it fluctuated, it means that it's behaving in irregular, in zigzag manner, is unstable. Then I'm going to say, oh, it remains unstable, or it fluctuated, or in zigzag manner between so and so time. Then remain constant, unchanged. When it remains constant, it means that that data, that entity is not increasing and it's not decreasing. It's just like if it is on 30%, it may be at that 13% for like 2-3 years before increasing again. So that area where there is no increase in that entity is where you are going to be saying, oh, it remains constant, unchanged, plateau or plane or whatever you call it. Then level off is the opposite of stood out. Level off should be used towards the end of your description. What do I mean by level off is like, take for example, you are describing assuming that you are describing a line graph and everything ends in 2017. So by the time you describe to 2015, imagine you saying that it increased to 30% in 2015. After that 2015, in 2016, it did not increase or reduce. It's still at 30%. 2017 is still at 30%. You can just say, okay, it increased to 30% in 2015 and level off at this point for the rest of the year. What you're simply saying is that it remains unchanged or constant at this point for the rest of the year. But level off is kind of stronger, is better than you saying it remains unchanged. Or you can still use it to remain unchanged or constant. But when you use level off, it's far better. Or you can also use even out. It's even out at this point for the rest of the year. Reach a low is just like anything reducing. Increase to this before dropping and reach a low of this. It's just like describing a reduction. Just like as I was saying, they are not limited to this. Other one can be like skyrocket, leap, fall, jump. Do we understand? You can bring other language of changes, provided they are talking about something going up or something coming down or something remain stable, blah blah blah. So note, all this can be qualified or modified with adjective and adverb respectively. Take for example, steady rise. Steady is an adjective qualifying the noun rise. A drastic increase. Drastic is also an adjective qualifying the noun increase. A dramatic rise. Dramatic is also an adjective qualifying the noun rise. Significant reduction. Significant is an adjective qualifying the noun reduction. Adverb. You know what adverb? It gives us more information regarding a verb, explaining the verb better to us. Like it rose. How did it rise? It rose steadily. Oh, steadily is an adverb. Went up significantly. Significantly is an adverb. Dramatically is also an adverb, which are all modifying verbs. So what I'm trying to say is that you can use all these alongside all these examples of language of change to create a better picture of what you are describing. Say, for example, let me use this analogy. I think I've been using it before. Imagine we are all in the same class and we just have a new student joining our class. Then I'm trying to talk to Sister Siri. I, I hope I'm correct with that pronunciation, please. If I'm not correct, pardon me. So imagine I'm trying to talk to Sister Siri, and maybe I don't know whether Uju is a female or a male, and Sister Uju or Bro Uju. Again, the two of us want to give Sister Siri information regarding the new student that just joined our class. Imagine I'm the first speaker to talk to her. I say, Good afternoon, Sister Siri. I've seen the new student. She is a girl. Then maybe the Sister Uju or Bro Uju came around and say, Oh, good afternoon, Sister Siri. I've seen the new student. She is a beautiful young girl. Do we understand? Among those two people, two speakers, who has presented better information regarding the new student to Sister Siri? I should be expecting. I should be seeing. The second speaker. Thank you very much. The second speaker. The same thing applicable in our task 1 essay. Somebody may say it rise from 2 to 3. Another person will say it rise slightly from 2 to 3. Do we understand? The slightly has painted a better picture by qualifying the rising. It rose significantly. It rose significantly from 3 to 7 or from 3 to 10. Somebody can just write it rose from 3 to 10. Do we understand? Let us try as much as possible to be incorporating adjective and adverb to our task 1 essay writing by the time we be attempting these task questions. Any question, please?
No.
Thank you. So this is an examples of what we've been discussing things. This is a line graph. These are line graph questions. This may be a bit fainted, but it's a very good one. So I love using it because it's kind of technical. So you can see it's the graph below shows the proportion of the population aged 65 and over between 1940 and 2040 in 3 different countries. That is the question. Can somebody tell me what do you notice about the years, the 2 years in this chart? Is there anything that you notice regarding those 2 years, please? Hello, 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 hello. This class is quiet too. Let us pick up. Let us make it interactive. Sister Siri, what did you notice between the years? The 2 years. Sister Ramata, yes.
Hello, good evening, sir. I can't see your screen. So,
Seriously?
okay, it's now that yes, I can. It's now that I'm seeing the screen.
Good.
Now.
Brilliant. So, Sister Siri, you're saying something.
Yeah, I think the time difference is 10 years, within 10 years. Between 10 years, since it's
1940 and 2040. These are the 2 years. Is there anything regarding those 2 years? Can somebody tell me, is there anything that those 2 years are pointing at that may affect the way we will be writing this essay? Sister or Bro Uju, are you there, please? Hello. Yes, he or she is not here. Sister Jimmy, are you here? I want us to participate. Is there anything regarding those 2 years? Sister Ramata, is there anything regarding those 2 years? Let me read the question again. The question says, the graph below shows the proportion of the population aged 65 and over between 1940 and 2040 in 3 different countries. Is there anything regarding those 2 years? I know we are smarter enough than this. So. Nevertheless, all right. You wanted to say something, please?
I think there's a difference of 100 years.
Yes, Sister Jimmy, you're saying something. Go ahead. Hello, go ahead.
There's a space of 100 years.
Exactly, there is a space of 100 years.
There's a space of 100 years.
Good.
Yeah.
But there is still something. There's still something there that will definitely affect the way we'll be writing this chart. And that thing is...
And we're supposed to compare.
Okay, now, and it's also saying that it's 1940 and...
Go ahead. 1940 and 2040.
And 2040. They're not saying that you should say about the ones in the middle, something like that. Should be between the year 1940 and 2040. Those 2 years.
You tried, but there is the only thing that is in this chart, just don't let me, is the fact that this chart is talking about something in the past and something in the future. Do we understand? 1940, 2040, we are still in 2024. Meaning there is going to be a point by the time you'll be writing this chart, you are going to be transitioning from using past tense to future tense. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
This particular question or those 2 years, they are just trapped in that question because they want us to get carried away using past tense. But there is going to be a point where we'll be transitioning from that past tense to future tense. Does that make sense, please? That is actually, we've all tried, but that is one thing that seems to be unique regarding those 2 years. So, first thing we should do is to paraphrase like the graph, the line graph given illustrates the percentage of the number of people age 65 and above between 1940 and 2040 in Japan, Sweden, and USA. That might be my own paraphrasing. Your own paraphrasing may be different from mine. Are we together? That is, I've already paraphrased the question, which is the first thing that we must do? The next one is writing the overview. I will be asking us another question. Please let us participate. There was, let me say this, there was a guy in our MASH class. The guy was participating, he was speaking, then his weakness got reviewed. We tackle everything. He sat for the exam once and passed it. He was too happy to share his result because, you know, some people struggle 4, 5, 6, 7 times. But when we participate, we get ourselves exposed. We get our weakness exposed. Then we tackle those things. Then when you pass your exam, then you are good to go. You won't have time. So please let us participate. Don't keep mute. So having said that, I want to ask us, we're having Japan. I want to explain. Japan is the one with this broken line. With this thin line. This thin, tiny line is the one that is representing Japan. This thick line is the one that is representing USA. This thick line is for USA. Then the broken line is for Sweden. This broken line here, this broken line is for Sweden. So I want to ask us another question. Looking at 1940, what is the position of USA, which is this thick line, in relation to the other two countries in 1940? What is the position of USA? Anybody?
I think the position is the third position and it's below 10.
I said in relation to the other two countries, not to the numbers, to the other two. USA is the thick one. Sweden is the line. Then Japan is the thin line. What is the position of USA to the other two countries in relation to the other?
I think it has the higher percentage than the others.
Excellent. Highest percentage. Which first position? Does that make sense? Thank you. That USA with the thick line here, what is the position of that USA in 2040? No, that should be easy.
It has the lower percentage.
Excellent. Thank you. It has the lowest percentage in 2040. Coming to Sweden, what is the position of Sweden in 1940 here? Go ahead. The broken line is in between, second in position. What is the position of that Sweden again in 2040?
Still in between. That's second position.
Great. In between. Great, thank you. Then, what is the position of Japan in 2040 to the other two countries?
It's the lowest.
Great. What's the position of that Japan in 2040?
It's the highest.
The first position.
It's the highest. Excellent. What I'm saying is that we can form our overview around USA and Japan. The reason being that our Sweden, there is little changes. I mean, little changes regarding its position. Sweden only came out around here as the highest, but when you look at it at the beginning, it was at the middle, and at the final stage, it's still at the middle. I may not dwell so much on that, but there are things that are standing out. Something have been at the least, becoming the highest. Something being the highest, becoming the lowest, is really pointing to us that, okay, we can actually form our overview around those two countries. Am I communicating, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I can now say that overall, it can be seen that USA had the highest population of age 65 and above at the start of the year or at the beginning of the year, but is expected to be the least by the close of the period. Why Japan, that had the least population of this age group at the beginning of the period, is expected, or we can say that had the least population of this age group at the beginning of the year, will outrace the other two countries to emerge as the highest by the close of the year. Does that make sense? That may be my overview. We can see that with transition, I was using will because it's in the future. Then here I say is expected. It's still an expectation. Do we understand? While I was using past tense here, I was trying to switch to future tense by the time I'll be describing what is in the future, even while writing the overview. Does that make sense to us?
Yes.
Again, I can write it in another way. I can say overall it can be seen that USA and Sweden almost fluctuated. Or USA and Sweden fluctuated at the start of the period and will continue to fluctuate. Overall, it can be seen that USA and Sweden had a fluctuation at the start of the period toward the middle and will continue to fluctuate till the end of the year. Do we understand?
Yes.
But in order not to complicate yourself, just pick something overall it can be seen that among the three countries, USA had the highest population of blah blah at the start of the year, but became the least at the close. Why blah blah that has the least? Do we understand? So that is how to go about our overview writing. When you listen to that overview, I wasn't talking about unit of measurement, and I wasn't talking about data. I didn't say okay, USA had the overall it can be seen that USA had the highest population of age 65 and over in 1940 at around 10%. Do we understand? By the time I start saying 10%, 20%, I will start mentioning data and unit of measurement, which is not supposed to be so. Any question, please? Any question? Oh.
Please come again with the data. Why are we not supposed to use data?
Yes. In overview writing, you don't use data. The reason being that overview is just like a summary of what is going on. Overview is not an illustration. You are not analyzing the chart. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You start analyzing the chart in the body of the essay. So you don't do analysis. You don't start saying it's increased to 30 to 20. So there's no need for that in your overview writing. It's just like giving us a glimpse of what is going on in the chart. Not in depth. Overview is not in-depth illustration of the chart. Does that make sense, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question? Any question? Sister Ramata, any question? Bro Uju, any question? Sister Siri, any question? Sister Jimmy, any question?
No, sir.
All right. Yes, thanks so much. This is where I'm going to be drawing the curtain for tonight. Thanks for your time.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma. So
honestly, my network has been terrible.
No problem. I think
I was unable to join right from beginning. In the middle, it has been on and off, so I didn't really enjoy the lecture. I know the fault is not from you.
I think I was trying